Goomba, what are you doing? Goomba? Logic's new album. Goomba. Logic hasn't released a good album since The Incredible True Story. Why would you listen to him? Goomba. It's not trash? Nah, I don't believe you, man. Nah. Goomba. I should give it a try. Nah, fam. I don't trust you, Goomba. Give me one good reason why I should trust you. Goomba. Goomba. Yeah, fair point. Alright, guess I'll give it a try.
Amen. But I'm known to be vicious. I get under people's skin like stitches. No strings attached, I just let it dissolve. Give it time and then let it resolve.
So, Logic has released his final album, No Pressure. I have quite mixed emotions about it, more on the bittersweet side of it. Mainly in the sense that, for me, Logic somewhat declined in his quality of music over the years. Logic had albums like Bobby Tarantino, 1 and 2, Supermarket, Everybody, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, and they were not as good as the albums before those ones, such as albums like Under Pressure, The Incredible True Story, Young Sinatra mixtapes. Those, for me, was when Logic hit his peak. Especially with Under Pressure, I feel like that was quite a defining moment for him. That was the point where he proved his talent, his hungerness to be one of the greats in the rap world. But my first album that I ever listened to was The Incredible True Story, and from a storytelling point of view, his rap skill, production on it was literally 10 out of 10. And the same goes for Under Pressure. And I remember listening to those when it came out and being like, I can see Logic being up there with J. Cole, Kendrick, I guess Drake, but from there it went on to Bobby Tarantino, it wasn't a bad album, but it was a bit more on the inconsistent side, with some tracks being really good and some just not hitting the mark we all wanted it to hit. As it progressed in his career, the songs on each album became less and less good. You'd find 2 out of 15 tracks that were good rather than majority of the album being good. And as a fan, I hit a point where I was like, I no longer enjoy his music, the style that he gave, the storytelling, the production, the themes, everything. It was no longer there. It was like the Logic I once knew began to fade away. No pun intended.
They gon' know my name until it fade away. Tell them fade away.
And when Logic came out that he was going to retire, I was glad. I was like, I think it's about time. He just seems like he's lost. He was also releasing too many albums, so frequent that it always felt like he had nothing to talk about. There were so many lines that were recycled. You would kind of get bored of each track, and for me it was like, dude, just wait a few years and then release a track. Spend time in life, learn new things and deal with issues there, and through that, then when you release another album, there's more to talk about, there's more that we can learn about you. So then when he announced that he was going to retire, I was kind of happy, but a part of me still wanted him to end off on a good note. Logic, you did. So we get into No Pressure, and it's 15 tracks. So we start off with the first track, which is No Pressure, the intro. I feel like as soon as it started, I felt that nostalgia of listening to Under Pressure just came flooding in. The production, the style of it, what he's talking about in it, reflecting on his past life, all of the things he's been struggling with that has gotten him to this point where he is now, and it worked really, really well. I mean, as soon as I started listening to it, I had a big smile on my face. I was happy, and I knew like, okay, Logic actually put effort in this. As an intro, I thought it was perfect. He's just giving a quick summary of what's about to happen, showing that this is like a direct sequel to Under Pressure. Next, we move into Hit My Line, which I would say is one of my favorite tracks alongside Heard Him Say. As soon as the instrumental started, I could tell this was just setting it up for Logic to now express his emotions, pour out his heart into this track. The production was really good. I know No ID was involved in this, and I feel like he nailed it. I love the piano, I think, melody within the track. It worked really well for Logic to rap over. In this track, Logic is talking about how he's calling out to God, seeing how people just like him are struggling, and he has struggled just like them, but the difference is that he has made it with his success, which has helped him. Yet with these people, they don't have any help, and through that is making him somewhat feel some sort of suffering, and in that case he's calling out to God. The song itself, within its instrumental, sampled the drum beats from the Ego theme by Tyler the Creator, which I thought was really cool, and it worked really well for the song. And I thought with the chorus and the way he rapped over it, you could feel his emotion, and it just, everything combined made it such a good track. I personally loved it so much, and I feel like Logic says in this track that this is who he wants to be, which kind of leans over the fact that people are not happy with him, and he no longer cares about that, by the fact that he says people can tear me apart, showing that he has tried to be this version of himself, but it seems like people are not happy about it. I think it becomes quite a tricky topic, because Logic, for me, did decline in his quality of music. I think why fans got very hurt was due to the fact that we saw Logic's potential in Under Pressure and the Incredible True Story Young Sinatra mixtapes, and we could see him being up there, and for him to not take that potential and put it in that direction, and I think that's what frustrated us, and it made us quite angry, and I think that's where the hate started going towards him. But to be honest, we shouldn't have shown hate. I did not show hate. I was just more like, I no longer have expectations of Logic, but I felt like some people were really harsh towards him, and in that case I can understand where he's coming from. Next, we move on to Growing Pains 4. I really liked how he sampled the song Elevators by Outkast. I think it really suited the song. The instrumental itself had a very gloomy take to it, I think, which suited what Logic was trying to say, and his flow was probably the best I've heard in a very long time. He did really well with the flow. He was playing around with it, he was going fast, changing it up a bit, and I think it worked really well for the instrumental. However, it became a bit hard to concentrate on what he was saying. If you compare the previous Growing Pains tracks, the instrumental is not covering what is being said. In this case, the instrumental and the production of it made it quite hard to concentrate with what Logic was saying, especially with him playing around with the flow, which was enjoyable, but I think with the Growing Pains track, you want to hear what is being said. However, despite those things, from the message that was being said, I think it was still a valid message. It did suit the theme of Growing Pains, which was good. At least it didn't divert away from the theme of it. Next, we move on to Celebration. I thought this instrumental was really fun. You kind of had a good time listening to it. In terms of what Logic wanted to say, it was mainly about how proud he is of himself, and in that regard is a celebration of how far he's come, how proud he is of not caring about what people think anymore, and mainly referring to how people insult him or telling him to change his style of rap, and he refers it to what people do to everybody, in terms of people always have something to say about your job, your kids, anything. They always comment about it instead of letting you just be you, and I feel like I could relate to that. Throughout my life, I feel like whenever I would express myself or be or achieve anything, people always had something to say. It was never positive. It was always like, you did this wrong, you should do this. There was no like, hey, I'm proud of you, or accepting me for me. And I can understand the frustration Logic is going through. And in that he says this is what people did to him and how it affected him, but now he no longer cares. And I guess it suits the theme of the album of there is no pressure anymore, in comparison to Under Pressure, where it was about the pressures of entering the rap industry and what he's going through in his life and his family and his addiction and all of these things. But now it's a bit more like, hey, there's no pressure anymore because I no longer care what people think. Next, we have Open Mic and Aquarius 3, and oh my goodness, this song was amazing. The thing of they call Logic up and he's speaking through a microphone and he's just expressing what he's saying, and even you can hear in his voice in the song, it doesn't sound as clear. It's as if he is speaking through a mic, which I thought was really good. I really like the instrumental in particular. It has like a constant beat to it, but it opens it up for Logic to continuously progress in his emotion as he's expressing what he wants to say. Logic also compares music to drugs and talks about how he's addicted to his music and what it did for him, and then leads on to speaking about more of his past addictions and how he's overcome them. Next, we move into Aquarius 3, which I thought the instrumental was really good. I think both instrumentals in this open mic and Aquarius 3 showed me that it was very similar to Under Pressure, which I thought was perfect. This is a sequel to Under Pressure. It definitely worked well for both tracks. With this, he's just mainly talking about how much he no longer cares about the fame culture, and now he has a son and that's his joy. I thought it was really sweet, and it was, as I said, a nice chilled out track to listen to. Next, we move over to Soul Food 2, and this was amazing as well. This was a direct sequel from the first Soul Food, and I thought it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. I know a lot of reviewers that I watched did not pick up that this was a direct sequel. The same instrumental was used, just changed a little bit. Most people are like, wow, I really love this instrumental. Nobody actually commented and said, hey, this is the same instrumental, showing that it is a sequel, but they just changed it a bit. Just showing me that lots of people who did review this album did not realize that Logic made this for the fans, that you had to be a big fan in order to pick up the references of previous tracks, to pick up references of instrumentals, of how it was directly linked to another song. And in this case, it was Soul Food 2. Instrumental is very similar. It opens with the same lyrics as the first one, just tweaked a little bit, changing what he says. This just showed how much he's changed as an artist from where he was in the first Under Pressure album. His mentality of seeing how he wasn't on the same level as legends, but now he just sees them as people, and he changes different things in the Soul Food, just which was really nice to see the comparison, how he's changed as a person, how he's grown, how he's in a different position now in the rap industry. I really love the second part of Soul Food 2 because it gives a summary of the incredible true story, which I thought was really cool, talking about Kai, Thomas, them trying to find a new planet and what they went through, and I thought that was really cool. However, my only criticism is that it did not fit the theme of Soul Food. It was like two opposing stories going on in this one track. As compared to the first Soul Food, it blended in pretty well of what he was talking about, and this one is just two complete different stories. Next, we move into the song Perfect. This wasn't a spectacular track, just in the sense that it was kind of an outlier compared to the other songs. It was still a good track, it was still fun to listen to, but it somewhat gave me Yeezus vibes from Kanye West, which is fair enough because Thalia does say at the end that Kanye West was an influence on this. And if it did not belong in this album, it did feel like it belonged maybe in like a Bobby Tarantino type album. But as I said, it was still really fun to listen to. Logic was just mainly bragging, and it was more of a flexing type of track. Next, we move on to Man I Is. The instrumental is very soothing on this, calm. It was really nice to listen to. Logic mainly just reflecting on his life once again, how he struggled with loneliness, with people that have died in his life. He reflects on his regrets, but he then comments on it, saying that even if he had to do it all over, he wouldn't change the mistakes he has made, because this is what has gotten him to where he is now. God is now playing a much larger role in Logic's life. It seems like he is definitely struggling, and God is now somewhat a center point in his life, in which he maybe doesn't understand what God is doing in his life, but God is somebody he takes refuge in. I thought Logic was very playful with his flow. He did a lot of different things within this track, and it worked really, really well. It complemented the instrumental, and everything about this track I did enjoy. But then we move on to the next track, Dad Bod. I've heard that a lot of people did not enjoy this track, but personally I really liked this track. It was really fun. Logic references Upgrade, which is also a thing where he says, in Upgrade he says, will they love it, will they hate it? Showing that back then in The Incredible True Story, that was on his mind. He was very insecure, but now he interrupts that part of the song in Dad Bod and he says, well, F that, just showing that he no longer cares and there's growth within there. The song also just shows how he's now a dad and things that he's doing with his son, and I guess the instrumental also really suits it. It's very goofy like, showing that he's now a dad, he's having fun with it, he's enjoying it. And I think it was really nice to hear that, knowing that if he is, the fact that he is retiring, it's not a bad thing for him. This is a decision he's come to and he's happy with it. It's not like he's now gonna feel like something is missing or there's emptiness. He has found joy in being a dad. Next, we move on to the song 5 Hooks. I thought the production was really good on this song. I feel like the production did outshine the lyricism in this. I think I was enjoying the production to the point where I wasn't really listening to what Logic was saying. And it wasn't like the production was very fancy. It was just really cool and chilled out to the point where it was just that enjoyable. The next track is Dark Place, and I really resonated with this song. Compared to everything Logic has said about his mental health, this song he goes very deeper and darker into it, about his anxiety, depression, and he explains how that has been affected by people's expectations of him. But even though it is another repetitive thing, Logic goes a lot more deeper into this, and you get a sense of what he's been going through. It did give me similar vibes to the song Paradise with the instrumental, the way it progresses, mainly the mid-section of Paradise in The Incredible True Story. But if he was trying to make it a similar or something linked to that, in Paradise he was a bit more hopeful, he was a bit more like, this is what he wants to achieve. But in Dark Place it just shows that he's no longer that hopeful, I guess. It's just, this is the dark place he's in, and now he's trying to get out of it. I think overall the message that was being given off in this was that fame does not equal happiness. People think that once you reach fame, once you achieve a lot of money, you instantly have happiness, but this track shows you that mental health issues do not go away. You can still face challenges within it. The next track that we move on to is A to Z, and this was the worst track. 100%. I'm not even gonna say many positive things about this. As soon as you see the song, it's called A to Z, you can tell what he's about to do in the song. It's quite predictable. They even have some weird robotic ad-lib in the background saying each letter, I guess just in case we didn't pick up on it. You don't really pay attention to what he is saying. Even if he was saying this to his child, why? Like some stuff that he did say, I was just like, why would you say that to your son? Unless, was he talking to his son and then he kind of drifted off and just went into his own zone of rapping? I don't know. I was not that big of a fan of this song. I thought this was probably the worst track in the album. The second part of A to Z was where they played a track of Logic rapping from 2005, which had no correlation to what the theme of the song was of A to Z, so I also did not understand that. It was still nice to listen to, the second half, much better than the first half. It was nice, but it was a bit pointless to what the song was trying to achieve. There was no correlation, it was like two separate songs. Next we have the song Heard Him Say, which I really did enjoy. That woman that is being sampled in the background, what she says really fits the theme of the song, and it just really works well, just showing the unhappiness that Logic has been facing. And then comments about no matter what accomplishment he makes, people will never be happy. If he signed with Kanye West, people won't be happy. It's like no matter what you do in life, no matter what you achieve, even if people set expectations for you and you reach those expectations, people still will not be happy with it or content with it. And I think it has made us realize that we just need to be content within ourselves. We should not seek fulfillment from other people. It was a very heartfelt song. Logic really pours out his emotions in this, and he talks about the demons he has been facing and how he's battled through it. Next we move over to the song Amen. The piano is very similar to Hit My Line, but regardless still worked very well. Logic again speaks about his hardships, what he's gone through. He expresses his emotions and how people have affected him. I thought the build up to the chorus was really good. I really enjoyed it. From my first listen, it was really nice to listen to. I was bobbing my head. it was really nice. In terms of the final track, Obediently Yours, it's just commenting on America and how corrupted it is, how people aren't really free, and we need to rise up and unite together. Overall, my final comments on it is that it was a really good album. I think I would say it's Logic's third best album. It was really nice to see him in his element in this, pouring out his emotions, being a bit more vulnerable with us. I think my only criticism branching from that is the repetitiveness, but regardless, it did not make me hate the album. I think what made me quite emotional towards the end of the album was that Logic was the main reason I got into rap. Prior to 2015, I did not like rap. And I started listening to one of the songs on The Incredible True Story, which was Fade Away, which I fell in love with instantly. I listened to that track like 100 times in the first month. And from there, I started listening to other songs in The Incredible True Story, then listening to Under Pressure, which really influenced me as a person, helped me cope through a lot of struggles I went through. I think Logic's vulnerability has really helped me as a person, showing that you can be very famous and yet you can express your vulnerability to help others. Even if he was not talking about the same issues that I was going through, there was a thing of he had pain and he was dealing with it, and his thought process and how he's tried to overcome it, and that somewhat inspired me, and for that I have to thank Logic. I then searched on YouTube people who reacting to The Incredible True Story, which introduced me to a guy named Miami.
Damn! Who the fuck is this nigga?
Who then introduced me to Sean C, and Sean C introduced me to other rap artists, which I then started listening to. Miami was a giant fan of Kanye West, where I started listening to Kanye and became a mega fan of Kanye West, and from there I just started listening to rap all the time and became my favorite genre of music. I am sad to see him go, even though I do feel he will come back, and if he does come back, I will be glad, in the sense that he would have spent a lot of time experiencing a new life and maybe bringing that aspect into rap or into his new album if he does release one. I do strongly believe he will come back, but if he does not, I'm glad he ended off on a good note, and I wish him all the best. Overall, I give this album an 8 out of 10. Before I go, I would also like to consult with my dear friend Andreas. He gives very, very good, insightful information. Andreas, what was your thoughts on the album? Thank you, Andreas. I really appreciate it. As you heard it from Andreas, very descriptive in what he said. I fully agree with it. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one.
And I think you can hear all of those things collectively, just the soul and spirit of hip-hop in my music, because I'm a student of the game and I'm learning every day. But the one thing I want people to take away from not only this album but this interview is I am Logic, and there is only one of me.